The Washington Commanders bring in Eric Bieniemy to help modernize their offense, but also to see what they have in 2022 fifth rounder Sam Howell, who had quite the game in the season finale against the Dallas Cowboys. So will this offense be very exciting in 2023? Let's talk about it. And what's crackalackin'? It's your boy Broshmo. Just in case you did not know, so go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. That's where we have our nice, beautiful football discourse. As today we're going to be talking about the Washington Commanders. Get the comrades out, comrades, because we talking about their coaching staff, their scheme, their depth chart, and then I'll give you my predictions on how they'll do next season at the end of the video. Ain't that sweet? I think it's sweet. But let's go ahead, get this sucker started, like I said, with the coaching staff. And we kind of got to start with Eric Bieniemy, who's seemingly has been a hot name as a head coaching candidate the last like 3 seasons, but he's like always the bridesmaid, never the bride, right? But in this case, like never leaving Kansas City, which is fine. He saw a lot of success there, but part of the reason why I think he's found difficulty getting a head coaching job, there's like a couple of reasons out there dealing with his past. You could look into that if you'd like, but I think the biggest reason it's hard to separate what he has done in Kansas City from, well, Andy Reid, who is a wonderful offensive mind coming from the Mike Holmgren coaching tree there, and then the best quarterback in football, Patrick Mahomes. It's hard to separate Eric Bieniemy and what success he's actually had just because of how great those two guys are. Though Andy Reid does credit a lot of the red zone offense to Eric Bieniemy and how he's designed it. But here he comes. He's coming to Washington to prove, hey, I really am that freaking good. I have sat under Andy Reid since 2013, and I'm going to show you why I should be a head coach in the NFL. And I think he will do that because he's working with a lot of impressive weapons. He's working with a quarterback that I was pretty high on in 2022, and we'll talk about that when we get to the offense. But what he brings to Washington is, I think, a way more exciting scheme than what we saw from Scott Turner, who was more of this like traditional pro style offense. We're gonna see more. We're gonna see the shotgun. It's a spread offense. We're gonna see lots of shotgun. We're gonna see some RPOs, which will help out with Sam Howell. They're gonna use short passes instead of kind of like running the ball early downs to kind of facilitate like early easy gains, and they're gonna make their playmakers create after the catch. Which, I mean, you got Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson. You got guys that can do that. And we're not even talking to, like, you got Antonio Gibson, who's also wonderful at that. So I think there's going to be a lot of excitement there if we're going to talk about the blocking scheme. It's probably going to mimic what we saw in Kansas City. So you got like a man gap blocking scheme there. So there's a lot of excitement to be had with this Washington offense. If you go back to my deep dive video on the Commanders last year, one of my biggest problems was how predictable they were offensively, but also defensively. And I guess we could get into that with Ron Rivera. Basically, him and Jack Del Rio are exceptionally like-minded. Both fall under the John Fox coaching tree. And if you're a youngin' and you don't know who John Fox is, he's one of the guys that mentored Vic Fangio, who's defensive scheme is kind of like everywhere in the NFL. Guys are trying to replicate that for better or for worse. But he was the head coach for the Carolina Panthers for 9 seasons. Defensively, we're going to be seeing even fronts. So it's like I say base 4-3, but this team's a nickel a lot. You're going to see a cover 2 shell, so 2 safeties typically high. And it's going to be a lot of zone with it being something that comes from like the Fangio system. We're going to see quarters, cover 6 and such. So that's something to expect there. And I will say this, like, I wish there was more fun. This is a team that Didn't really have a heavy blitz rate. They're not really going to hit you with too exotic of a package, but they're very efficient. They really, really are. So we're going to see a lot of zone here. When it comes to Jack Del Rio, he's a leader. He's a guy that they bring in who has been a head coach or a defensive coordinator since 2002. So over 20 years, he has been in a position like this. And those are just good culture guys, like really, when it's all said and done. And they came to a place in Washington where some would say it was uncultured with everything going on with Dan Snyder and such. And I think they've done a fine enough job, but you look at them at this point and it's like, they feel kind of mid, like might be a big year for Ron Rivera. Is he the guy you will really want to move forward with? Or are you going to go out and find a new head coach, or maybe hire within Eric Bieniemy? No, not really. But like, I really like Ron Rivera. I'll say this: I like him better than Gus Bradley. I don't think Gus Bradley does anything that's like next level. But I think at least Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, they come in and they bring a culture of I don't want to say winning, but of effort, work ethic, competition. So I think that's fine enough for now. Really is. I would love to see new wrinkles to this defense, but it's fine. The defense, spoiler alert, when we get to the defense, they're going to be good. So let's go ahead and get to the offense. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is currently one of the most premier fantasy betting apps, and they got a best ball tournament with $15 million in cash prizes. So if you sign up at Underdog Fantasy using promo code Broshmo, they will match your first deposit up to $100. Remember, sign up with promo code Broshmo and they will match your first deposit up to $100. And as always, bet responsibly, my friends. All right, we're going to be looking at the offense. First and foremost, I kind of want to talk about Sam Howell. And let's just shoot to my ranking or my projected starters for this offense. And you're going to look at that offensive rank, be like bottom, and it's basically like 27th to 32nd. And I think that's kind of fair because it really depends on what your expectations are of Sam Howell. He looked pretty darn solid in the season finale. Okay. Dallas really didn't have their starters in through the whole game. They were kind of like cemented with where their playoff spot was going to be. Kind of is what it is. Regardless, like, it was still an impressive outing by Sam Howell, and to be fair, he did most of his damage early when those starters were in the game. I believe Dallas didn't pull their starters until I want to say midway through the third, something like that. But yeah, like, still, regardless, like, it was a good first impression of Sam Howell. If you're unfamiliar, Sam Howell, for me, he was quarterback 2 going into the 2022 NFL draft class. I had a first round grade on him. And to be fair, it was kind of a crappy quarterback class. And he falls to the 5th round. Like, I had him ahead of guys like Desmond Ridder, Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett. And I love what Sam Howell can do. I really do. Like, he's compact and kind of like he can make plays like a run back. Like, he ran a very RPO heavy scheme under Mac Brown at North Carolina, and the dude can run. He may not look like it, but once he gets rolling, watch out. I mean, especially if you saw the season finale game, you know what I'm talking about. He's got a big arm. He throws with good touch. We saw a couple of those deep balls. One to, I think, Jahan Dotson, who I think he ended up dropping it. He had one with Terry McLaurin. Like, this dude can throw a pretty downfield ball. But I think still this season you're going to run into the lumps and bumps of having, for the most part, a rookie quarterback. Keep in mind, he only had one start last year. And we saw that. They got in the red zone. I'm trying to remember, but the safety, he kind of like fakes coming downhill. And Howell thinks he has it over the top, and he really doesn't. And he kind of like threw it late too. He had a couple of tipped balls because he is a little shorter in stature. But still, I think there's plenty meat on the bone when it comes to Sam Howell, and I'm very excited. I will say this. Let's get to the depth real quick. Here we go. I am terrified with Jacoby Brissett on the roster. And if you've been around the channel, at least during this offseason, I was very adamant about like, oh no, Jacoby Brissett's going to come in here and Sam Howell's not even going to start. This sucks. Because like Jacoby Brissett's like a fine bridge quarterback and very good backup. Like, y'all played, to be fair, Deshaun Watson kind of like sucked. But he played Deshaun Watson. He actually kept that Cleveland team competitive last year. So Brissett comes in and he does scare me a little bit, but I think go ahead and see what you got in Sam Howell. Use next season as kind of a measuring stick if you need to go out and find a franchise quarterback, or if there's enough there you like, and start building more around him. Yeah, I'm excited about Sam Howell. I truly am, but he's kind of a big reason why I have them as a bottom ranked unit, because I feel like that's a lot to expect from essentially a rookie quarterback. You can look at the other, like they got Jake Fromm as backup. I doubt he makes the team. They probably keep 2 quarterbacks. They do have though Tim Demarat out of Fordham. He's probably going to the practice squad, but still, I thought that was a pretty solid pickup. Now, let's look at the other concern I have with this roster being the offensive line. Here are the starters I have listed. Charles Leno, who solid starter in the NFL. I think about half of the NFL would be happy if their left tackle was Charles Leno. Though you're probably getting to a point where you feel like, yeah, we could probably start looking for the replacement for this cat. Then I have Nick Gates here listed at left guard. He played left guard last season when he came back from injury. He got signed to not a hefty contract, but solid, a contract that says, hey, you're going to probably start on the offensive line for us. So he's going to be playing. The question is, who is that 5th player? Because the other spots are locked. Like you got Leno, you got Nick Gates, you brought in Andrew Wiley to play right tackle, someone who Bieniemy is very familiar with. He's fine. But you also have Samuel Cosby, who deserves much better than what they've given him. This guy should be their starting right tackle. He could be their starting left tackle. Like he's played well on both sides when called upon, and he's probably going to play well at guard, but I think that kind of sucks that you bring in Sam Howell's like 6 foot, right? And your freaking guard, you're going to have Samuel Cosby come in at 6'7". Like that's just not good, right? That just can't be good. All right. 6'1". I'm sorry, Sam Howell. I didn't give you enough there. But yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. But it is what it is. He's going to be the right guard. He's too good to keep off the field. Like I would, if you're going to look at him playing one of the tackle spots, I would consider starting him ahead of guys like Leno and Wiley. But hey, that's just me. I'm just a mark for Sam Cosby. So who is that 5th guy though? Because they have a couple of options. As you can see, the option I settle on is Ricky Stromberg, their 3rd round pick out of Arkansas, who's, I think in the NFL will be a fine center. Really do. Will he ever get into this top 10? I think he can flirt with it. I think he'll be in the top half of the NFL in terms of starting centers. The other things you can look at, because Nick Gates also can play center, so maybe you have Chris Paul, who saw some playing time last year, but admittedly, really great girthy build. But from a mental standpoint, like, he's just not there yet. He really isn't. Someone who doesn't show great anticipation, doesn't show, I think, overall good awareness. You saw him miss on like some stunts and loops. You've seen him get off combo blocks relatively slow. So it's like someone who I still think needs a little bit more time in the oven. Then you have Sadiq Charles, who came in a tackle from LSU. They've moved him to guard. Hasn't really, like, he's had his ups and his downs. Like, I think if you're gonna start Nick Gates at center, then yes, Sadiq Charles is probably the guy. But I'm rolling with Ricky Stromberg. They got him in the 3rd round. I think he ends up being an early starter for this roster. And I think, I mean, to be fair, this offensive line went through a lot of different lineups last season. And if this unit struggles, we could probably see something similar. But let's talk about the rest of the offensive line here, as they got Brayden Daniels, who they got in the 4th round out of Nebraska. Oh, sorry, hit the mic there. I said Nebraska, right? Oh, I know it's not Wisconsin. I always confuse the oh, it's Utah. I always get the stinking red schools mixed up. All right, so if you're not familiar with Brayden Daniels, he was a guy that played literally everywhere for Utah. I think everywhere but center, actually. He played left tackle, he played at guard, played on both sides, and he's someone that's been solid. They got him listed at tackle here. I don't know, man, because I believe he's still sub 300 as of right now. Someone that you want to get the weight up, but he brings some versatility. But again, at the end of the day, still a rookie. Cornelius Lucas, I would say one of the better backup tackles in football. Like, honestly, I think you could hand him starting snaps and he'll be fine. Straight up could be a plug and play starter anywhere else in the league if you need a tackle desperately. So again, a dude that is one of the better backups in the league. Who else you got here? You got Tyler Lanson. He's depth. You really don't want to see him play. You really don't. You also bring in Keaton, or at least you have Keenan Sutherland. I couldn't really tell you much about him. Mason Brooks, coming out of Ole Miss. He's a practice squad guy at best. So offensive line depth, they have some stuff, but in terms of their starters, that's going to be the question. Who is the 5th guy for this offensive line? And is he going to be at left guard, or is he going to be at center? Who is that 5th guy? Tell me now. So that's part of the reason also I kind of have them as a bottom unit as well. And I also really don't like you have a 6'7" freaking guard to your 6'1" quarterback. That one, I'm not too odd about it. But Cosme is a hell of a player. Looking at the weapons that they have on offense, your starters are going to be Scary, Terry McLaurin. This dude's a stud. Top 10, top 5 receiver in the NFL. The dude's great. He's kind of been on this Andre Johnson path of just playing well without ever really having a good franchise, like a good quarterback, or at least a steady quarterback. Hopefully that changes this year, because like I said, I'm a mark for Sam Howell. Jahan Dotson really, really looked good last season. The dude is so quick and so fluid, goes from pass catcher to ball carrier really quickly. And he was a little banged up last year, so he was in that season finale, he was exceptionally good. He was a good target for Sam Howell. So those two are going to be nutties. And matter of fact, Jahan Dotson kind of flipped how I looked at size at receiver and if a guy could play on the outside despite his size. That's why you saw me this season higher on guys like Zay Flowers and Josh Downs, because a guy like Jahan Dotson, I was like, I look at him and it's like, man, yeah, no, the size is mattering a little less at receiver, man. Some of these guys can't play on the outside. See, Jahan Dotson, he walked. So guys like Josh Downs and Zay Flowers could run. I say this, I just said Josh Downs in my other video for the Colts was like, yeah, he's going to be a really good slot guy. Look at me. Anywho, you got Curtis Samuel, one of the better slot options in the league. I would say he's someone that you could have a lot of fun with if you're Eric Bieniemy, because he can be that jet sweep option, someone you could put in motion. Jahan Dotson can also be that. Kind of is what it is. Looking at the depth, they bring in Marcus Kemp, who's extremely familiar with Bieniemy. I'm pretty sure Kemp was in Kansas City for basically his whole career. This guy's more of a special teamer. He's more of a wide receiver 5 or 6 on the roster. So don't be too surprised if he doesn't make the roster, but someone that is familiar with Bieniemy. You got De'Ami Brown, sick, deep threat, wonderful deep route tree. He played with Sam Howell in North Carolina. So yeah, there's a familiarity there, and someone that honestly really good depth at this point. He showed out in some parts during the season. Dax Milne, I don't know, some white dude at BYU. He was Zach Wilson's target. He's fine. He's a little speedy guy, is what it is. If anything, he's probably the guy on the outside looking in right now. Depending on if any, let me switch over. I'm talking about all the depth here. Y'all can't see what I'm really talking about. So like, I really think you got Kemp, you got Brown, then you got, of course, Samuel, Dotson, and McLaurin, and then you got Dax. But I think there's a variety of these rookies, these UDFAs, that could sneak in, and if they hold 6 receivers, be that 6th guy. Tremaine Bryson's more of a slot option from Stanford, yeah. You got Mitchell Tinsley, who I really liked, a guy that could really produce after the catch, very sure hands. Out of Penn State, also played at Western Kentucky prior to that. He was involved in the Bailey Zappi beating Joe Burrow's collegiate record for most passing touchdowns in a season. So he was a part of history there. You got Kazmir Allen, who's kind of Curtis Samuel, I guess, at UCLA. Good return man. He was someone that was used heavily in the slot because of a bit of a lack of size, but can create after the catch. They lined him up in the backfield, used him as like a motion jet sweep option. So probably a guy actually to look out for that might make this roster. So and I don't really think there's any. We don't really need to talk about the other guys they have here. I think this is the battle here. Is you're going to have Tinsley, Allen, and Dax. They hold on to another guy. That tight end, Logan Thomas, is what it is. Can he stay healthy? Hopefully, but still, he's mid at this point. And I think probably declining. Like, how old are you now, Zach Logan? I said Zach Logan. Logan Thomas, like, I want to say you just hit 30? 32. Yeah. He up there in years. I remember when he played quarterback at Virginia Tech. You got John Bates, more of a blocker out of Boise State. But you have also Cole Turner, who is actually a receiving threat. So more of a receiver to John Bates, the blocker. Cole Turner was a bit undersized coming out of Nevada. That's what he's really going to offer there. They have Amani Rogers here, who I believe was at Ohio. There was a lot to talk, like a lot of people talking him up after last season. Was it Ohio? I really just want to know. Is it Ohio? It is Ohio. Look at that. I know my draft stuff. But he seemingly is out for the season. That kind of sucks. So it is what it is. But the tight end room, not all that great. Like, it's fine. It's fine enough. But like, I really think this is why I listed Antonio Gibson as the starter here, as you can tell, because I think he's just built for Bieniemy's scheme. Like, did y'all see what Jerick McKinnon did last year? Yeah, that's what Antonio Gibson's going to do. If you didn't know, Antonio Gibson was a wide receiver coming out of Memphis, then moved to running back just because he was so good after the catch, so good after contact. So they move him to running back. And he's got a little bit of the receiving chops. It's not like he was running a great route tree over at Memphis. And a lot of it was it Mike Norvell at that time too? But it was a lot of screen or deep shots. Hold on. If you don't know, Mike Norvell is the current Florida State head coach. It was him. Ah, there we go. Look at that. But Mike Norvell, he was the head coach at the time at Memphis, and then he eventually got his break there at Florida State. But yeah, so it's not like he ran a very exciting route tree, but what he could do as a ball carrier, we could do after the catch. That's kind of like what they liked about him, and I think that's what he's going to be utilized a lot in Bieniemy's system for, not just on like third down, like passing. He's not just a passer down guy. Like, again, this team's going to be passing a lot more early downs than it typically did. That's why I kind of give Antonio Gibson the edge compared to the Thunder, to Antonio Gibson's Lightning and Brian Robinson. Though I do think Brian Robinson will see a healthy workload here. They also bring in Chris Rodriguez, who very similar to Brian Robinson in some aspects, but I think might be a more natural pass catcher. But he also doesn't bring the girth of a Brian Robinson. So he's like Richard Rodriguez, is going to be a very good committee back there. So I like a little bit of what they got going on. It's not like they got great talent at running back, but it's not like poor. It's somewhere in between, you know. But I'm very excited for Antonio Gibson, and so should Antonio Gibson, because this is a contract year for him. They also have Jonathan Williams, who's fine, good depth guy. Also, Jared Patterson, probably the favorite to hold on to after Jonathan Williams. I don't know. We'll see. Both got significant playing time at the end of the year when the season didn't matter anymore. So all in all, that's how I'm feeling about the offense. And I know some people are going to have problems like, oh, I can't believe you think they're a bottom unit. It's like, you got a lot working against them. That's what like people like, that's what I think either like fans or people that are high on these teams. It's like, I look at this and it's like a lot of things got to go right for this team to be like, have a significant step up. Just because I don't think they're going to do well this year doesn't mean I think they're not headed in the right direction. So, and we'll get to this, as they have one of the harder schedules in the NFL as well, which kind of plays into why I have them pretty low on this list. But let's talk about the defense. I have them as a top 10 unit, and to be fair, I have them literally at 10 when I did my defensive ranks. And a lot of it is this is a freaking nutty defensive line. Listen, if you're not going to blitz a lot, that's fine. When you have Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, and Montez Sweat, and a potential Chase Young, who I put Chase Young breakout. To be fair, he had a really solid rookie year. Then injuries have kind of like screwed with him, but there's a lot of talent there. Like Chase Young, like very good run stuffer. And when it comes to speed, bend, length, like he has that. He's just, obviously there's parts of his technique that need or parts of his pass rush tools that just need polished. But hopefully can he stay healthy and kind of emerge similar to how we saw Montez Sweat emerge last season. Because I think both those guys were injured the year prior. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Sweat and Young were injured in 2021. But we could go like Montez Sweat already kind of had his breakout in 2020, And then injury kind of caused him not to take that next step. I think last season he took that next step. 62 pressures was kind of a ridiculous number. So you're kind of hoping that Montez Sweat and having Montez Sweat there will help Chase Young also take that next step and kind of maybe emerge to be the alpha here. But yeah, I don't know if do we talk much about like the middle of this defense? Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, they're freaking phenomenal. Jonathan Allen, one of the best pass rush and interior players, I think, in football. The dude is exceptionally solid at that. You have Deron Payne, who's kind of the space eater here. He gets flack, I would say, for maybe not necessarily coming down with arm tackles, but I think that's kind of crap when you're getting double teamed. Like, don't get me wrong, like Deron Payne, some people, you could argue Deron Payne is on Jonathan Allen's level. I don't think that's the case. I know people look at like the 12 sack number. And to be fair, like last year, they were like, Deron Payne actually probably put out his best pass rushing season in his career. But still, like I think Jonathan Allen's the guy I would take there. I don't know. Regardless, I don't know why I'm crapping on either of them, because they're both exceptionally good. They're both, I think you could argue, top 10 in the league and should be talked about as such. So that's where a lot of this ranking goes, with just how good the offense or the defensive line is. And I mean, they're bringing all those snaps back. I have them as one of the top run defenses and pass rush units. When we're gonna go, let's go look at the depth real quick there. They have, and you got F.A. Obata, who was a little redundant there. Who was relatively solid last season. 26 pressures, 4 sacks in just a rotation role. That's really good. So he's a guy that's probably coming in on pass rushing downs only, because run defense is kind of but he kind of is built like he's more of a speed guy anyway. You got Casey Toohill, who was also used as a rotation player last season, but he's probably the better run defender between the two. I've always been a fan of James Williams coming out of NC State back in the day, and I think he's been one of the best just depth guys at the edge position. He had 24 pressures, 3 sacks last season, 12 defensive stops. He was the leader in terms of the rotation, and also kind of like, I think he had quite a bit of starts to his name because of Chase missing most of the year. Yeah. No, he had a ton of starts, almost every game. So yeah, called that. But yeah, I mean, they were heavy into the bag of depth that they have at edge, trying to make up for Chase Young. They bring in KJ Jefferson in the 5th round. Solid pickup. He's kind of built similarly to guys like Sweat and Young. Like, Sweat got some weight on him. I mean, to be fair, it's like KJ Henry's like 255, I believe. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Or I should probably more so say, correct me when I'm wrong there. They also have Andre Jones. He's just off here. Let me get him. You got Andre Jones, Louisiana Lafayette, who probably hits the practice squad. They also have Will Bradley Keene. They drafted a couple of years ago out of Baylor, who's more of a speed to power guy, or turn to speed to power. Might just not make the cut. I mean, you can't keep all these guys, so it's like, yeah, you got probably Andrew Jones Jr. and going to practice squad. William Bradley Keene probably heads that way as well. If not, they just straight up not re-sign him. And looking at the interior, like, it's fine. Like, Fedarian Mathis is a fine depth guy. I think he's a good third option there. John Ridgeway, coming out of Arkansas, I believe. Here, let's just check this just to be sure I know I'm talking about the right player. Yes. Coming out of Arkansas. I'm kind of hoping he kind of sees a bit of the field. He was initially a 5th rounder at Dallas, and I thought he could be more than what he was. So yeah, they have him right here behind Deron Payne at nose tackle, and that makes a ton of sense. John Ridgeway is built that way. The interesting name, and to be fair, I haven't watched a ton of them, and I'm kind of like just betting on the franchise guy, Marcus Whitman, that he's obviously he just knows more about this player than I do. And Abdullah Anderson played with Atlanta. Here, I mean, I guess I could just pull up his numbers from last year. There we go. Abdullah Anderson. So, okay, last season was the first year he's been a journeyman. He was literally everywhere in the NFC North, Chicago, Minnesota, Green Bay. But saw the most amount of snaps in his career last season with 433. Someone that they didn't mind, like Atlanta didn't mind putting in the A gap, it appears. But it's sub 300. Why would you do that? I feel this guy's kind of a penetrator, so he's probably more of a passing down guy. Like I said, I'm kind of talking out my butt. I don't really know much about him. I didn't evaluate him coming out of Bucknell. I mean, it's not a school typically a lot of people are going to go watch tape on or find tape on. So yeah, I'm going to just take Marcus's word for this, that Anderson could end up being a solid player in the rotation here. But regardless, they got a very good defensive line. Looking at the starters at linebacker, you have Jamin Davis, who's coming into his own. Looks like everything's starting to click for him. Definitely last season, or at least I would say the last half of last season, he looked infinitely much better. The dude's got the athleticism to be someone who can make splash plays and coverage, but I'm okay with him just shoring up what he can do in run fits and being a more solid tackler and whatnot, and just not being a liability in coverage. It's like, hey, I could get, like, a lot of linebackers in the NFL are minimal gain guys. Like, hey, you might catch it on me, but these 4 yards, you just got the only 4 yards. You're not going to make any plays after the catch. Like, I'm okay with that. Because, like, if you're looking at guys that make splash plays in coverage, typically those are, like, top tier to elite linebackers in the NFL. Like, it's something that can be a little bit more rare to find. But Davis definitely has that ability. Cody Barton's kind of like, he's just like a mid starter, which is fine. Honestly, it's fine. Like, how many snaps did he have last year? He had almost 1,000 snaps for Seattle last season. So it's like, he's fine. He's replaceable, but he's fine. Looking at the depth they have at linebacker, Kaliki Hudson. How much size has Kaliki put on? Coming out of Michigan, I know he was a bit undersized. Still is at 220, but he's compact, 5'11". So probably more of a passing down option. David Mayo, who's all right. Like, it's definitely linebacker is the weak spot on this defense. And then looking at who I have projected starting in the secondary, we got Kendall Fuller, who is kind of like just made for this defense. It's going to be playing off zone coverage. So, yeah, he's probably going to be the starter over Benjamin St. Juste, who's a bigger guy that you probably want, that's more advantageous in press situations. So I imagine Emmanuel Forbes then will be the starter on the other opposite of Fuller on the outside. And to be fair, they did spend their first round pick on Forbes. So Benjamin St. Juste, I would probably say, is a situational corner when they want to go more press and such. So, which isn't bad by any means. And if you actually look at the depth that they have at corner. They have someone who I really liked coming out of Mizzou. He was formerly, I believe, a Florida Gator before that. No, Oklahoma. No. It was Mizzou, and then he went to Oklahoma State. There we go. But another guy who's built to be a press corner. So him and Benjamin St. Juste looks like that they can be those options that if they want to go to more press alignments, they'll bring those guys in. Because, I mean, to be fair, Forbes and Fuller, I think they have the flexibility to kind of play inside or maybe back at safety. But to be fair, they're very good at the safety position. So I don't know why they would want to do that. But I'm just saying that they got that option there. Tariq Castro-Fields was someone I liked coming out of Penn State. Couldn't stick to San Fran's roster, so it kind of is what it is. Troy Apke, he is moving from safety to corner. I mean, the guy has what we call athleticism. So at least he's got that going for him. Looking at the slot, I really do believe Jartavius Martin will be the starter there. He is phenomenal. He's someone that you could play with as a deep safety as well, but I think he is going to be manning up the slot, someone that I liked a lot in the draft process and really wish I moved him a bit higher up my board. Kind of is what it is, but I really liked the pick. They also have Danny Johnson there, who's been a very good special teamer. Sorry about that. Gojo's got one hell of a deafening bark. But apparently he's a big fan of Danny Johnson as well. Danny Johnson, they got him listed here in the nickel, and he spent some time in the nickel last season. But mainly he was playing outside, which, again, someone that just gives them more depth. Chad Wildgoose is kind of a developmental guy, or at least he has been since coming into the league. Kind of is what it is. But looking at the safety group as well, the guys that I've listed at starter are Cameron Curl, who is phenomenal in the box. Guy that could come down, play in the slot, play in the box. Sure tackler as well. What was his missed tackle rate last year? I want to say it was like 7%. Here, I got it right here. Give me a quick sec. 4.7. I knew there was a 7 in there. This is why you don't quote stuff from memory, but you either write it down or you look it up yourself. But phenomenal, just phenomenal against, not just against the run, but anything underneath, man. Really, really good. And then Derek Forrest, who emerged. If you're not familiar with Derek Forrest, he was someone that I was slow to in the 2021 draft. I remember it was just after, it was either his pro day or the combine, because I can't remember if he got invited to the combine. But he had a hell of a workout. And I was like, okay, well, let me go check this dude out. And I ended up having him as like a 4th round grade, or maybe even a late 3rd. He was safety 11 for me. To be fair, like going back and looking at my safety rankings, woof. That safety group that year was interesting. But yeah, no, I was a big fan of his because I knew the dude was a phenomenal athlete who showed a little bit at Cincinnati. And it's good to see him play well last year. It really is, man. It's nice to see players that you liked in the draft process come out and just do well. And I'm hoping to see more from him. He was very good. Had 4 interceptions, 5 pass breakups last season. So those are your guys at safety. But they also have a safety by the name of freaking Jeremy Reeves, who doesn't get enough love. Like, I can't wait. Like, hold on. When's his contract up? This dude, he is a phenomenal special teamer on top of being someone that doesn't get enough freaking love. Here, I want to see his contract. Look at this, man. Look at this. He's currently on a contract that's 2 years, $1.5 million. That's bullcrap. He deserves way more than that. I'd be willing to pay him way more than that. He's gonna be a free agent after this season, I believe. Yes. Or did he sign a one? No, did he sign a 1 year? I don't know. Regardless, he's in the final year of his deal. He'll be a free agent after this season, and he deserves a lot more love than he gets. He is phenomenal when on the field. Someone that has showed he could play. He could play deep. He could play in the box. He can play in the slot. He's a phenomenal special teamer, and he's one of the best backup safeties, I would say, in the NFL. That's right. I'm willing to go that far with it. Percy Butler came out, I think, Louisiana as well. He wasn't that good when on the field, but he's just depth at this point is what it is. They do have Terrell Burgess, who I actually really liked coming out of, I want to say it was Utah. He's someone that's more for the box, the slot. He might make the roster. They have a couple of UDFAs. Really, I think Kendall Smith, was he the Illinois guy or was he I don't think he was the Stanford guy. He was the Illinois guy. Not much to talk about. He's like fine, but I doubt he makes the roster. Not really much to talk about there. But like all in all, when looking at this defense, this is a good defense that I think will make plays, and they'll basically they'll come up with stops and give opportunities to that offense that now looks a lot more exciting in 2023. So let's go ahead and just get to my predictions for the Washington Commanders, because I know this is the part where I get a lot of hate for. They're currently Vegas betting odds. Their win total is projected at 6.5. I think that's about right. I think that might even be on the button with 6 to 7 wins, because when you look at this team's schedule, it's extremely difficult. It's a tough schedule. They have, I think, the 6th or 7th toughest schedule after I got done with my projections. So straight the schedule, insane. It's tough. They have to play the not just the AFC East, where you gotta face the Cowboys, you gotta face the Eagles, who were in the Super Bowl last year. You gotta face the Giants, who are the ultimate overachievers. But they also have to face the stinking AFC East. So you're going to get to face my Dolphins. Fins up, baby. You get, which that is actually arguably one of the toughest divisions in the AFC. It's up there with the North. So like none of those games are like shoo-ins. Like Miami, Buffalo, New England, the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, like that's gonna be tough. But they also get to face the NFC West, which it's like, okay, well, Cardinals aren't that good. Rams, they'll probably be hurt. They're kind of like on the verge of needing to rebuild. Well, Seattle and San Fran are kind of tough. Seattle, up and coming team. San Fran, terrifying. So it's a tough schedule. It really is. And I've been saying this the last couple of videos. I have a lot of teams at 5-12. To count specifically, let's see. Here we go. I have one, two, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 teams at 5-12. And I would say they're kind of largely in the same ballpark of one another. And what they all share in common is either they're very young at quarterback, or their quarterback position isn't that ideal. There may be questions with the offensive line or with their playmakers. For Washington, in this case, it's their offensive line. And even though they might have like some like better defenses, like we talked about Tampa Bay, they have a phenomenal defense. We could talk about Indianapolis, who's I would say upper half of the NFL defense. And Washington here, who I have listed as like the 10th best defense by my projections. So it's like a lot of that is dictated by the youth that they have at quarterback, and either problems stemming from playmakers or offensive line. It comes down to the offense. This is an offensive league, but let's go by the game by game. They get Arizona. Kyler Murray lists Arizona in the opener. Good on them. The Denver Broncos, who I think they're really good in September, but I think they're going to be more improved. We will find out one way or another if Russell Wilson's washed or not. And then they get Buffalo. That sucks. Oh, look. Then the Eagles. It gets worse. Isn't that flippin' fantastic? I think at best, maybe they come out of this 2-2. I think it's more likely they end up 1-3. And then they get to face Justin Fields and the Bears, who they're kind of on their way up. We're going to be talking about that team fairly soon, so be here for that. They're kind of in this same ballpark as I have Washington. I have them beating Atlanta, who's a team that was exceptionally competitive last year when they had no right being, in my opinion. You got the Giants as overachievers. I have them going 2-4 in the division. I think it's probably double losses to the Eagles. Yeah, it's double losses to the Eagles. But then they go on this stretch, which just sucks, right? Like, okay, at least they get the Eagles early in the season, right? Because after week 8, they ain't got to worry about the Eagles. But you get the Patriots, you get the Seahawks. You could argue that the Patriots game is winnable, but it's also in Foxborough. It's going to be a tough game. I got them beating the Giants at home. Cowboys are going to be tough games without, but I have them splitting with the Cowboys. They get the Dolphins prior to their bye, so yeah, Dolphins, they get a nice tired Washington team. Coming out of their bye, I got them beating the Rams, but after that, they ended the season just with the Jets, the Niners, the Cowboys, all playoff teams, former playoff. Well, not the Jets, but the Jets, for a lot of people, are going to be projected as a playoff team. Like, it's a tough way to end the season. I mean, it's one of the tougher schedules in the NFL. And I wouldn't bet the over-under. I think the over-under 6.5 is right on the button. And I think to expect more than 7 wins from Washington, I think is an unfair and a lofty expectation given what they have, given just this offense, like how much with the turnover, with this schematically with Bieniemy coming in, you'd be like, well, that's going to be a plus. Well, these guys got to get acclimated to that scheme. You have for all intents and purposes, a rookie quarterback. And you have an offensive line that still has question marks that we went over in this video. So can they? Yeah, they certainly can be better than, let's say, 7. I have them at 5 wins. They certainly can be better than that. I just think that's a lofty goal to set for this roster. And I think 5 to 7 wins is more realistic what to expect from the squad. And you got to ask, I think the fair question to ask is 5 to 7 wins enough to save Ron Rivera's job? And because he's kind of been on the hot seat, or at least for people, he has been on the hot seat for the last couple of seasons. Will this be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and do they bring in someone else? Eric Bieniemy, can he thrive without Mahomes, without being under Andy Reid? Can he thrive? Is he someone that maybe, like, if they do get rid of guys like Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, does he become the head coach, or do they just totally scrub this coaching staff in general? A lot of questions. I don't think that'll necessarily be the case. I think there's maybe even a good chance that Ron Rivera sticks around. Like, this is a guy that's had very, like, longevity with teams, like with the Panthers. He was there for 9 seasons. But yeah, you let me know what you think in the comment section below. That's it for the video. I'm going to have one more of these out for you on Saturday. I'm going to be doing a lot of recording on Sunday because I'm actually going to be gone for the 4th of July week. I'm out of town, so I'm going to have stuff ready and recorded for y'all. For instance, we're going to do our 2024 prospect rankings for running backs, and let me tell you, that one pretty darn fun. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing as always. Until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.